Ever wonder if she's into you but can't quite tell? What if her words are giving her away and you're just not catching it? In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what women say when they're crushing on you. Subtle, playful, and sometimes bold. Miss these and you might miss your shot. From teasing comments to sneaky what-if scenarios, I'll show you the 9 phrases that mean she's interested. And trust me, Num 7 will completely change how you read her. Let's jump right in. 1. She makes thoughtful, open-ended comments. You're chatting, and she suddenly says something like, "You seem like the type of guy who has interesting stories. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?" Now this isn't just random small talk. She's actively opening the door for you to share something meaningful about yourself. Women who are interested in you won't just skim the surface of a conversation. They'll dig a little deeper, hoping to uncover what makes you tick. Here's why this works. It's not just a question. It's an invitation psychologically. People use open-ended comments to establish trust and rapport. When she's interested, she'll suddenly show she's invested in discovering more about you. Imagine this. You're at a coffee shop and she leans forward, resting her chin on her hand saying, "I bet you're the adventurous type, aren't you?" Boom! She's practically begging you to tell her about that time you went skydiving or that spontaneous road trip you took last summer. Now's your moment, run with it. But here's the kicker. Sometimes it's not the deep stuff that gives her away. It's the playful, unexpected lines that catch you completely off guard. 2. She throws out playful hypotheticals. Ever had a woman say something like, "If we were stranded on a deserted island, what would you bring?" Or, "If we were in a zombie apocalypse, do you think you'd survive?" It's random, it's quirky, and it's not an accident. This isn't her auditioning for a role in your life's disaster movie. It's her way of keeping the conversation flirty and fun, while also exploring your personality. These hypotheticals do something clever. They create a playful, low-pressure way to test compatibility psychologically. Scenarios like these lower defenses and make people more likely to open up, revealing quirks and preferences. Plus, they subtly set up a shared world, even if it's fictional or you two are together. Picture this. You're at a party, and she says, "So if you had to choose between having a pet tiger or a pet octopus, what would it be?" You laugh throughout some ridiculous answer. And suddenly, you're debating the logistics of keeping an octopus in your bathtub. Fun, light, and memorable. Exactly what she's aiming for. Speaking of memorable moments, let's talk about something even bolder. When she's not afraid to flirt with a hint of challenge. 3. She teases you with just the right amount of sass. When a woman says something like, "I bet you think you're really charming, don't you?" Or, "Oh, so you're one of those guys." She's not just trying to roast you. She's showing her hand. Playful teasing is like flirting's edgier cousin. It's her way of keeping you on your toes, while making it clear she's engaged. Why does teasing work? Simple. It's a psychological test. A confident response shows you can handle her banter and match her energy. It also sets the stage for some flirtatious tension. When she teases, she's saying, "I'm paying attention and I'm not afraid to play." Let's set the scene. You're out for drinks, and she catches you checking out the dessert menu. She smirks and says, "Let me guess, you're gonna pick the most boring option, right? Vanilla ice cream." That's your cue. Laugh. Fire back with something witty, and watch her grin as the chemistry crackles. But teasing is just one weapon in her arsenal. Sometimes it's not what she says to you, it's what she says about herself. 4. She accidentally drops personal clues. When she says something like, "I love exploring new places, but I never seem to have anyone adventurous enough to come with me," she's not just lamenting her travel woes. That's a hint, and a big one. Women often drop these personal clues to see if you'll pick up on them, and more importantly, act on them psychologically. This is her way of planting the idea that you could be the one to fill that role. It's subtle, but it creates an opening for you to connect. It also hints at vulnerability, which is a huge trust builder in any budding connection. Here's how this might look in real life. You're walking her to her car after a group dinner, and she casually mentions, "I've always wanted to try salsa dancing. but none of my friends are into it. Translation: she wants you to step up, suggest a date, and be the guy who makes that happen. Now, if you think these verbal clues are sneaky, wait until you hear what happens when she takes things a step further. Let's talk about the ways she tests your reactions without you even realizing it. 5. She brings up what-if scenarios about you two. Let's be real. When a woman casually says, "If we were a couple, I'd probably end up stealing all your fries," she isn't just stating her love of junk food. It's a sneaky way of planting an idea. You and her together. She's creating a mini fantasy, testing how you'll react. Will you laugh, flirt back, or brush it off? The response is everything. From a psychological perspective, this works because it's low risk. She's not declaring her feelings outright. She's just dangling the possibility of a connection. This tactic allows her to gauge your level of interest without risking rejection. Imagine this. You're sitting on a park bench chatting about weekend plans. She suddenly grins and says, "I bet you'd be the kind of boyfriend who always steals the blankets at night." She's not talking about blankets. She's testing the waters, a playful well. You'd have to share to find out. Can turn that hypothetical into something real. But what happens when her words aren't about the future? They're about digging into who you are right now. Here's where it gets even more telling. 6. She asks about your past relationships. When she says something like, "So how long was your last relationship?" or "What kind of women are you usually into?" she's not just making conversation. This is her attempt to gather intel. And it's a clear sign. She's interested in understanding where you stand emotionally, and if she might have a shot. Here's the psychology. Asking about your romantic past shows investment. It's a sign she's thinking beyond the surface level and wants to learn what makes you tick in relationships. More importantly, she's measuring herself against what you say. If you describe your ex as kind and adventurous, you might notice her mentioning her recent hiking trip or how much she loves volunteering at the animal shelter. Coincidence partly. Picture this. You're at a casual dinner and out of nowhere, she drops, "So do you believe in soulmates?" That's not light dinner conversation. She's diving deep, hoping to align herself with your romantic outlook. Now, sometimes it's not what she asks you, but how she responds to your stories. Let's talk about her reactions. They're pure gold for decoding her feelings. 7. She overreacts in a good way to your stories. You tell her about the time you ran a 5K, and she lights up saying, "Oh my God, that's amazing. I could never do that." Or maybe you casually mention your love for spicy food, and she immediately declares, "Spicy food is the best. I think we'd get along." These reactions are more than just enthusiasm. They're exaggerated because she's trying to connect and impress you. Psychologically, this is tied to mirroring. When someone likes you, they amplify their responses to show alignment with your interests or values. It's a subtle subconscious way of saying we're on the same page. Let's set the scene. You're swapping travel stories and she hears about your camping trip. She gasps and says, "That's so cool. I've always wanted to do that. Maybe you could teach me." Yeah. She might not even like camping, but she's making sure you see her as someone who could fit into your world. But what if she's not reacting to your stories? What if she's suddenly bragging about herself to catch your attention? That's where things get even more obvious. 8. She accidentally shows off when a woman slips into conversation. Things like, "Oh, I got a little raise at work, so I treated myself to this new dress." Or, "I've been running a lot lately, trying to hit my fitness goals." She's not just updating you on her life. She's putting herself on display. This isn't narcissism. It's attraction. Why does this happen? Evolutionary psychology explains it well. Just as men often flaunt status or achievements to attract women, women highlight traits they think will make them more desirable, whether it's their career success, personality, or even fitness habits. Picture this. You're chatting after a meeting, and she casually mentions, "I've been working on my cooking skills. Made the best lasagna last night." She's not inviting you to critique her culinary technique. She's nudging you to imagine her making that lasagna for you. Now, if you think that's intentional, wait until you catch her using one of the oldest tricks in the book. keeping you close through inside jokes. 9. She creates inside jokes to build a bond. When she starts saying things like, "Oh no, are you gonna bring up that time you got lost on the way here again?" Or, "Careful, I might have to call you Mr. Overthinker after that comment." She's crafting a little world where only the two of you live. Inside jokes and callbacks aren't just fun. They're a powerful way to strengthen intimacy psychologically. This is known as social bonding. Shared humor or private references create a sense of exclusivity, signaling that your connection is unique. She's essentially building a mini relationship with its own language. Here's a real-world example. You're at a party, and earlier in the night you mentioned a childhood fear of clowns. Later, she jokes, "Good thing no clowns showed up tonight, or I'd have to rescue you." She's not just teasing you. She's cementing a playful connection that only you two share. These signs are just the beginning. Once you start noticing these subtle, often unexpected ways she's expressing interest, you'll realize that her words are the map to understanding her true feelings. Hit that like button if you've ever missed an obvious sign she was into you. Don't worry, we've all been there. And tell me in the comments, what's the most confusing thing a woman has ever said to you? Let's see who's got the wildest story.